So if you're antisocial this morning and you're not sitting beside anyone, you have to get closer to someone. We're going to do a quick wake-up exercise with a partner, which is you are going to answer two questions. You don't know what the question is. Wait. Okay, the question is, number one, where are you in your innovation journey? 0, you know, you've started, you're thinking about it, you've got some things going on. So where are you on your innovation journey in your organization right now? And then 2, what's one of the challenges facing you? What is one of the things that you're butting up against? So you have, this is very fast, so no long stories, quick hits, 2 people, partner up, minute each. Ready? Yeah. You should be on the other person by now. So switch up if you haven't done that. All right, everybody, we're going to come back. Come back. I love it. All right, some great conversations, clearly. So we wanted to ground you before our presentations and what this conversation is about, which is really to answer questions, give you some insights, and hopefully we'll have a really great Q&A after we're done. So my co-presenters are going to present for a few minutes each and give you some of our ideas and thoughts, and then we'll have a great conversation afterwards. So we'll get started. Just really quickly, in terms of a little context, my name is Trish Barbato. I'm the Senior Vice President for Innovation and Strategic Partnerships at Revera. I also have the IT portfolio. Revera has a strategic plan of which innovation is one of the key pillars. And just to give you a little bit of sense, Revera is an interesting company that nobody knows about, really. It's been around for over 50 years. We have about 200 sites in Canada. We have 76% ownership of the Sunrise platform in the US. We also have a number of companies in the UK. So all indirectly or directly, we have about 500 sites. We serve 50,000 seniors. We have about 45,000 employees. And in terms of, I just wanted to give you a couple of things that we're doing to spark some interest. And one thing, is Scott Pfeiffer here from Aging 2.0? Scott? Okay, so Scott, Aging 2.0 is a great organization out of San Fran. Most of you are probably familiar with it. They recently had a global search, startup global search, and so cities around the world got involved in this. We helped to organize the one in Toronto, and a little snippet there is that we brought our residents. We brought 8 residents to be on a resident judging panel, and then there were the actual judges, the sharks, and so we each had 2 minutes after each pitch. And my story here is that our residents were way better. It was kind of like they don't need us here, the official judges. So they were asking like, well, what is your return on investment? And do you have a business plan? And how do you plan to scale that? So, don't underestimate the power of our residents and kind of like the richness that they bring to a conversation. So that was really awesome, and we look forward. They have their big conference in October, and so that's going to be great. Another thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about, I'm really focused on the culture and changing the culture, and how do you do that? You do it slowly, and you do it kind of one step at a time and a little bit at a time. And one of the things that we launched, and we thought a lot about how to do this, we wanted to get ideas from the staff, and should we buy a software program and have people send emails, and how should we do this? And in the end, we did a very simple thing. We said to our sites, come up with one idea, and just email it on this very, very simple form. And that's what they did. And so we had over 100 submissions. We have an innovation council. We narrowed those down. We had a pitch event last week with our sharks, which were the CEO. We also had a resident ambassador, who I'm going to talk a little bit about, our chief elder officer. And they had to videotape their pitches, and then they were live for their Q&A. And honestly, I feel like I was watching culture change before my very eyes. Because these sites that were, I'm going to say, a little bit sleepy, a little bit lethargic in a way, doing this kind of like same thing every day, suddenly had gathered their staff together, were in the competitive spirit of winning, and submitted these pitches that were really mind-blowing, really blew us away. The amount of research they had done, the amount of engagement that they had gotten from their families and their residents. And so 10 of those are now moving on. We're going to pilot them, and then we're going to announce winners at the end of November after they've been evaluated. And we'll have really not big prizes, $2,500 for the first prize, $1,500 for the second, $1,000 for third prize. But people have been really engaged, and they did that with both their employees and their residents, which is super exciting. And another program that we've launched is just recently is called Revera Innovators in Aging. And so this is a program where startups or early entrepreneurs can apply for a program in which we will take a look at their product or service or technology. We will really work hand in hand with them to align our interests. That could take equity, for example, in their company. It might mean a number of things, but also the ability to pilot within our sites, and then the potential to scale. And I think that the program's going to be really great, and we've made a financial commitment of $20 million over the next 5 years to support this program. So people can apply, and then we'll take a look at those on a quarterly basis and really streamline the process of what we're doing. And another cool thing, and I'm sure there's something similar in the US, is AgeWell, which is a consortium of research partners across the country. And this has allowed us to funnel our research efforts and really be choosy about what we do and make sure that it's aligned to our business perspectives. And then a couple of cool people that I want to introduce you to. The first one, Bill Jarvis. He is our resident innovation ambassador. I actually met Bill at a resident council meeting last year when I was sort of touring around trying to figure out what my job was doing innovation. And I saw him at a resident council meeting. I put him in the back of my head, and sort of as I was thinking about an innovation council, I thought of him, and I called him up and said, would you be willing to do this? You'd be a bit of a guinea pig. I have no idea what your role is going to be, but let's just make it up as we go along. He was all game. It was great. And then I find out, after he's taken on this job, that the guy was like the head of IT for a major brewery company, a major beer company called Labatt's that's since been bought out. He sold his IT consulting company to Gartner, which is a global, worldwide IT company, and was the CEO and chairman of the Canadian office. And this is really good. He was really good for me because he reminded me of inherent ageism that we have. Like we all do, we don't even notice it. And it's like, oh, Trish, like how dare you not think that he was an accomplished person in his life? So it was a real moment for me, and I have since become kind of an insane resident advocate. And I sit at the senior leadership team all day long and say, no, we have to go back to the residents. We have to think about we have to get their views directly. So Bill is doing a number of things for us. He's, as I said, he's been a judge. He's on our Innovation Council. He has come out to a couple of speaking engagements. He has been phenomenal for really visually bringing home what is going on, and this is the person we should be thinking about. So Bill lives in one of our residents, had a major stroke 6 years ago, is completely paralyzed on one side, is in a wheelchair, and he is well-spoken, asks great questions, and gives unbelievable insight into innovation and what we're doing from a resident perspective. And then Hazel McCallion. Hazel is one of the longest running mayors in the world. She has served at mayors in a major city outside of Toronto for over 30 years. She is 95 years old. She entered politics after a very strong business career. So she started politics when she was 63 and then served for over 30 years as mayor of a $800,000 person city. So Hazel is remarkable and extremely inspiring. We use her, she works sort of one day a week, and it's amazing what she's been able to do. So what we do with her, she's very strategic. We send her to sites to get feedback from residents. And we brought her to a board meeting last month, and here's what she told the board. Do not change the soup spoons unless you ask the residents first. That's what she told our board. And, you know, she's right. She's right. Don't change the soup spoons unless you ask your residents. But she just brings that vision, and she brings that clarity. And another thing that we do with her is we bring her to occupancy challenged sites. So she's a bit of a rock star in Canada. She's very well known. And so when people know she is going to a site, we invite the entire community. We get tons of people that come to hear her speak at the site, which generates a lot of interest in the site and gets people in the door. So we use her strategically in that regard. And then we have a national newspaper in Canada. It's called the Globe and Mail. And if you would like to look at the op-ed piece that was published yesterday, Hazel has this really great article that we helped to co-write with her, and it is about ageism. Ageism is getting old. Let's end that conversation. So you'd really enjoy it, I think, to take a look at it. So again, these are a couple folks that are part of the organization, and we've really embedded them in the fiber of the innovation movement that we're trying to exude across the entire organization. So maybe I just want to say one more thing, a couple things about sort of learnings. And I said this last year, I'm going to say it again. Innovation is not going to work unless somebody is responsible for it. And it doesn't have to be a new person that you hire and it's really expensive. There's probably somebody in your organization who kind of is doing it anyway, but actually putting it in their job description, and they have performance goals against it. Like I have performance goals against innovation. I'm going to be measured against that. My bonus is based on that. So I am highly motivated to make sure that innovation is happening and that I accomplish my goals. If you don't have that focus, it's hard to make sure that innovation is happening in your organization. So I really encourage you to think about how to do that. And then I would say, the second thing would be that cheap and cheerful really works well with innovation. I mean, sometimes you need a big splash and a lot of thinking, and you need communications involved. And sometimes, like the thing that we did with our sites was really simple, not complicated. We got them to email their idea to us. We put it in binders and gave it to the judges to look at. We had one meeting to screen them down. We didn't make that process complicated, and it has given us so much return for what we invested in it. So those were kind of the two big things. And then maybe the third thing I'd say is really, you have to really think and work hard at allowing people to make mistakes. And that is hard. It's hard to give permission to someone to try something when in the back of your mind thinking, oh my goodness, that is never gonna work. It's better to let them try it and fail. And then they'll learn from that and they'll grow. And that's important. And it's at a micro level, and it's at a big macro level in the way that you govern your organization. Thank you very much. And I will hand it off to Sara.
All right. Good morning. I agree with everything Trish said. I was visiting some wineries, and I thought wineries are a lot like visiting senior living communities. There's a lot to see, a lot to absorb. You kind of feel woozy by the end of the day. You've gone to like 5. And you're trying to sort it all out, but at the end of the day, it comes down to people and process, right? And when we got in the tour car with our driver, Chris, he started saying, oh my gosh, there's so many innovations going on in the wine industry. There's 800 wineries around here. And I said, well, oh my gosh, tell me about the innovations. I'm going to this conference. And he said, well, they used to do it. He gave me this like brochure, and there's this big map. And he said, well, there's 800 wineries, and they used to do it in oak barrels, and now they do it in stainless steel barrels. And they have these new farming techniques. This dry farming gives it this jammy, grapey, full-bodied, woofy. I mean, he threw every adjective you could think of in there. And it really is kind of our thing too, is we really try to kind of like throw it up on the amenity board and just be like, we have all these things and see what sticks. But after going to all these wineries, it really came down to the people and, you know, the story behind the brand and what the organization stands for. So, not to bore you to tears, but I think it's important to share that. So I'm from Horizon House. I've been there for a year. It's been around for a really long time, and I followed in the footsteps of a very, very successful CEO. He retired after 17 years. And he was very, very good at building the brand and talking about the mission and giving people a reason to be proud of Horizon House. We have a very big board, and we have 7 different committees that the board has people on, and we also have residents on our board. So when I interviewed, I said, what are those things that I should make sure that I bring forward that Bob has done, the previous CEO, that you want to make sure continues? And they said, we've talked about it, Sara, and we've all agreed that we just want you to be who you are, and you don't need to do that. Just be who you are, and we'll support you. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. And so what they really meant was, which I learned, you can change stuff, but just don't do anything different. And I was like, okay. So I knew that I really would have to focus on the bright spots. How do we build on our success? How do we keep people feeling proud of what we've done and focus on where we can go with that? So that was the first thing. Then the other thing was, how do we just take little bites of the sacred cow, just not big bites, but you know, it's kind of tasty, so just little bites, and then you can wash it down with the company Kool-Aid. I wasn't trying to take any of that away, but I was trying to kind of show how they can work together to advance the mission and move the organization forward. So the other part of it is there's a lot of residents at Horizon House. Not a bad thing. They are full of insights. So innovation is all about insights, right? It's about taking what people are telling you, for the most part, and either thinking beyond it or just saying, what can we do with that? How can we make that better? And I am thoroughly convinced that everything we do, we can do it better. And it's not because it's bad, it's because there's just a lot of opportunities there. We have over 60 resident committees, and the committees work on everything from programming, what programs go on. They have a Monday market. They raise just under $100,000 every year, and that funds every single program the Horizon House does. They circulate art in the building every quarter, and we have 1 million square feet. So we have a whole committee that takes photos off is this just making your toes curl? They take photos off the wall, and they move them around the community so everybody gets to see different artwork. A lot of commitment there. So one of the things that I know we all know is it's important not to be an asshole. Like, don't ask people's perspectives or opinions and then not do anything with it, right? We do our resident surveys, we do our employee surveys, and sometimes we follow up on it, and sometimes we say, you know, they've said that every year. Well, there might be a reason for that. And if you're not going to do anything about it, what I have learned is it's totally fine to go to the residents and say, here's where we can excel on this. Here's where, can we just agree that we're going to be this on this particular point? That's all they want. It's just like, don't keep asking me, don't be an asshole, and then not doing anything about it, because I'm going to stop talking to you, and that's a bad thing. So, you know, staff, I mean, we've talked about culture, and it is so imperative, and I'm dealing with I'm new to them, and they had someone for a really long time that they got used to, and the status quo is very comfortable, and, you know, what we're doing is fine. don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. It's half union, half non-union. Big part of the workforce is 55 and better. We have very, very, very low turnover. People do not leave, and that may sound dreamy to some of you, but there are some caveats associated with that when you're trying to progress an organization. And that's what we're working on right now is how do you meet people where they're at? So a couple of things is we did an operational assessment for the last 6 months with an outside consultant. We looked at every department. What do we do? How do we do it? How much time does it take? How many people does it take? How much does it cost? How much do the residents value it? What does the staff think of it? I mean, everything. It was great being new and really diving deep into all of that. And then how do we compare to the industry, similar size, location, that sort of thing. And we're learning a lot of important things about ourselves. Staff feel like they cannot do anything more than what they're currently doing. And when I talk to them, I say, I know you work really hard. You do a lot around here. Let's take a look at what that is. So one of the things is sitting down with a bunch of paper plates with your leadership team and having them write down all the things that are on their plate. And then kind of doing this comparison, you'll find that a lot of people in different departments are doing the exact same thing. So then you kind of put those plates in a pile and you say, okay, how do we align that more so we're not, being so redundant? And then the other part of it is what can come off your plate so something new can come on your plate. So I don't worry so much about a learning curve with people. I worry much more about the forgetting curve. Helping them talk about, okay, I know I'm really connected to what I think the value is of this today. How can I get connected to how there can be value in it tomorrow? And it's kind of this struggle. I know people want it, but they're not quite sure they want to completely let go to do something else. And that's where that make it okay. So one year I gift wrapped all of their performance reviews. And at performance review time, I gave it to them and I said, I hope you enjoy this gift. I spent a lot of time and thought and energy on putting it together for you. And just like any gift, you can put it on the shelf. You can try to re-gift it, but I don't know how well that's going to work for you. Or you can try to put it to good use. Find a way that it can be helpful to you. And, just doing simple things like that helps take a common thing, and that's what innovation is for us right now at Horizon House, is taking common things and thinking how to do it in an uncommon way, just to give people a different lens to look at things. Showing them that perspective, how do I do things differently and better? Does anyone know the story of Johnny the Bagger? Yeah, so Johnny the Bagger was a bagger at a grocery store. And so that's a pretty common task, right? But Johnny made it uncommon by putting a quote in people's bags, and his line was the longest in the grocery store because everybody wanted to see what the quote was going to be. So innovation can be very scary, and people automatically check out when you start talking to them, especially if you have 27 different nationalities. They're like, you know what, that's your thing. I'm just going to keep doing what I do the way I do it. So getting the workforce engaged requires, and Trish was saying this, start small. Lower the bar so they can get over it. Keep it really focused. Our newest thing is we're not trying to be Steve Jobs. We're more on the Steve Urkel plateau, And, we just want staff to say, here's what I can do. So one of the things that we kind of do in some not-for-profits is we deplete our staff resources by running around in circles trying to do everything for everyone. Whatever you want your legs shaved, your hair washed, we'll do it. And that really depletes your resources. And so helping staff understand what we can do and what we can be really good at, while still having a high level of customer experience associated with that, is really important. And I think one of the things is staff agree with that, but they struggle with it. Like last year, some people went up to the director of food service and said, can I stock up all of my dining points and use it at the end of the year for a big party? And he's such a nice guy. You know what he said? Sure. And then guess what happened? Everybody else wanted to do the same thing. And we had a complete chaotic mess at the end of last year trying to do these things. And it was a good lesson for us to be like, can we really do that? Or what can we really do? And they were part of the solution, so it wasn't just me saying, what the hell were you thinking? They kind of came to that conclusion on their own. So the other thing is we do these License to Innovate cards. It's kind of the possibility, that quote that you were reading from Muhammad Ali. What are the possibilities? What is possible? And giving it to each staff person. I broke the clock. I'm good. I have 10 seconds. So giving it to each staff person, and we've already had a few staff people come forward. You get them at performance review time, and the idea is that you turn them in before the next performance review period, so being innovative becomes part of everybody's job responsibility, but we make it softer so it's not so overwhelming. Like, what do you mean be innovative? It's how do you do something that you do, how do you make it more fun, more efficient, more effective, more valuable to a resident? And then we give examples of that at all of our employee get-togethers, so people are like, oh, and then a new idea comes in. The goal is to have 52 of those by the end of the year for 52 weeks. In my own head, I'm shooting for 12, one a month. We already have more than that, but not all of them are being acted upon. Some of them are just ideas. And as we know, innovation is about asking and action, so that's really important. And because we're in Napa, I just want to share my favorite quote, or my favorite toast, which is, may the only pain in your life be champagne. KARI, come on up.
Olson and I lead innovation and technology for Front Porch. And in a nutshell, Front Porch is a senior living organization. We've been around for a long time. We were formed in merger a long time ago through 3 other organizations. And we had innovation as a core value for our whole existence. What we found is that we were doing what we call episodic innovation. A little bit over here, a little bit over there, but really most of it staying within silos and really not creating the transformational impact that we need as an organization to disrupt ourselves, which is, we feel, a business imperative at this point. So I'm going to share with you today what we did to address that. After much thought, we actually created 2 years ago an approach to what we call cause-based innovation, called Humanly Possible. And what this is designed to do is really take the innovative spirit that's existed in Front Porch for many years and raise it to new levels of achievement through a structured approach and by making this the bedrock of our culture. So what we wanted to do was take innovation and really make it personal and actionable for all of our workforce. We have 2,200 employees today. And we wanted to engage everyone and help them understand that they had a role to play in innovation. So what we did was we created 8 actions that we wanted to teach everyone and encourage everyone to live, lead, and teach in our organization. And you can see those at the bottom of the slide. Due to the time, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. If you want to learn more about it, you can go out to our website, frontporch.net, and you can see a video and learn much more about it. But quickly, the actions that we're asking our workforce to live, lead, and teach start with observation. So to really look around you, pay attention to what's going on, and we're giving our employees permission to say what they see. It's a small but very powerful thing. Then we're asking them to take it a step further. We're asking and teaching them how to do disruptive questioning and do respectful inquiries into why are things the way they are, how could they be different, what can we do together to really advance the needle in innovation and transforming the work we do. From there, we're asking everyone to expand. And I think that's really important. I think what you heard is we have an incredible workforce. It's an asset that we've talked about for the last 3 days. The passions, the hearts, the minds, the commitment. But in addition to all that, every one of us has a unique background of different experiences that if we can bring that into the workplace and talk about how things could be different and expand our thinking, we'll be a better organization. And along with that, we want people to make links. So not only respond to how we can transform from your professional experience, but oh, hey, I'm a son. Hey, I'm a daughter. Hey, I'm a community member, and I've crossed some of these challenges at different points in my life, and here was my experience. And hey, Front Porch, if you thought about this too, the answers you would come up with would be even better. From there, we asked people to imagine. If you guys heard Zeke talk last night, he talked about handing his management team a blank piece of paper. We're doing that with our entire workforce. We're saying, imagine with us how things could be different and help create that. And then we're very intentionally doing small experiments around the company to kind of learn what we're going to learn. We're giving people active permission to try and to fail. And the single strongest piece of feedback we've had in our organization is that's the most important message we've given in 20 years to our workforce, that it's okay to try and to fail and to learn from that and to try it again, tweak it, and move forward. The last two actions are about how we want to do this. We really wanted to break down our silos and send a strong message to the organization that we really need to collaborate more, not only within our organization, but we really want people to reach outside of our organization to others in the field and very specifically to others not in our field to help us think about how we can do this better. And then the last one is about keeping inspiration at the core of what we do, because we know any time that we inspire ourselves and the people we're trying to serve or the lives we're trying to touch, we do our best work. So with that kind of baseline of how we want to build our culture, then we created a structured approach to launching innovation in our organization. Like Trish, for the first time in our organization, we set up an executive position for innovation that I lead. We also, our board, I wish I could have $20 million, Trish, but our board created a $2 million designated fund to support innovation that we can tap to both run pilots, develop materials and resources and training for our workforce, and kind of creatively advance the innovation work in our organization. One of the things that we did was we said if we're going to do this and we're truly going to engage the workforce, we've got to commit to educating people in innovation skills. So we took a really unique approach. First, for our frontline workforce, we created 2-hour workshops that are led by frontline staff, given to the entire organization to educate them on humanly possible and innovation focus areas for the year. This staff train their peers, train their supervisors, and train the executives. It's kind of awesome. The other thing we did is we brought in 6 weeks of virtual team-based innovation training online for our senior executives. Everyone from the director level on up has now gone through this training. It's aimed at bringing personal innovation skills up and teaching people how to do innovation in an organizational system. We also set up a center of excellence to help us in playing a role to be an idea incubator and an accelerator of promising experiments across the organization. This has been one of the most powerful things we've done because it's become our scaling mechanism. We're really, in the past year, we've been able to take promising experiments and scale them in a matter of months, largely because of creating this center of excellence. We have seed grants and awards. Anybody from the company can apply for a $5,000 seed grant to develop promising ideas, and we honor innovation excellence both in recognition and financial rewards. So, just quickly, last year we had tremendous success. This is only our second year in doing this. The number one thing we're seeing is massive engagement, not only from the workforce, but happily from the residents and the larger community. You can see that we've last year worked with 100 new strategic partners that we hadn't worked with before. What I want to do is use my remaining time to kind of quickly talk to you about 2 examples of how this has come to life. What I love about each of these examples is they started with a question from frontline workforce. The first was a sales director that had a happy problem. She had a community that was 100% full. All right, enough said, right? No innovation needed there, right? Wrong, okay? She called up and she said, you know what? I am daily turning away prospects and it's just killing me. And I'm doing the right thing. I'm referring them to competitors in the area because our job, most important job, is to meet needs, but it's kind of killing me. And we've had our internal referral program in Front Porch for many, many years, but it never works. And I'm sorry to say that, but could we look at that and re-examine it? Called the senior executive in sales and marketing of the company, skipped our executive director, skipped the chain of command. It was awesome. And she said, in the spirit of humanly possible, could we look at this? Sales VP said, you know what, you're right. Let's start asking questions about why it's not working. They did this across the company. They engaged 27 partners from around the company, different previously siloed areas. And in 2 weeks' time, okay, not-for-profits especially, 2 weeks' time, they completely transformed this referral program and turned it into something that over the last 9 months has resulted in 20 referrals to our other communities. You know the value of that one prospect moving in. I think for us it's about over average length of stay represents about $300,000. That's huge to have captured that. 2 weeks' time. Certainly the revenue is an exciting thing, but to me, more importantly, is the disruptive question from the front line that changed it, the willingness to look at it, the engagement, and the quick, rapid response to creating something new and implementation and getting everyone to buy in on that. So, one great example of how this is changing our culture. Second great example, we had a frontline person working in one of our memory care units in Cupertino say to her executive director, you know what, my son is a teacher. He uses whiteboards in his classroom to really engage people and do personalized work with folks. It's tremendous. I've seen him do it. I want to do this in memory care. Executive director said, honestly, and she's great when she tells the story, I didn't really budget for that, and I don't really know how we're going to use that. But okay, in the spirit of humanly possible, let's kind of ask around the company where we might go with this. They ended up with me, and I said, oh gosh, for the last 5 years, I've had this tremendous solution that I've been trying to bring into the organization, and I've done lots of demos of this, and no one's been interested. How about you guys talk? They talked. They immediately realized there was something there, but we agreed to be intentional. We said, let's do a pilot. We did an 8-week pilot where we collected outcomes. We generated results. It was phenomenal. We had tangible impact on resident quality of life, tangible impact on staff, and just a massive enthusiastic response from the team in memory care. What happened was the residents were watching this, came forward and said, we think this is amazing. It'll never be for me, but I'd like to pay for this. So through philanthropy, they bought this solution and put it in the memory care unit. Didn't stop there. What happened was the residents started going to memory care to use it with the memory care residents, created this phenomenal environment in memory care. And then what happened was the residents came forward and said, well, we said this really wasn't for us, it was only for memory care residents, but we want you to bring it into independent living, and we'd like to figure out how we can use it. We don't care what the marketing says for this solution, we want to figure it out on our own. Challenge the staff to do the same thing again, think deeply, run a 5-month pilot this time to learn about how we could use it successfully, shared those best practices with the rest of the campus. The residents turned around, raised $100,000, and now we have 5 of these devices just at one campus. It's changed the way we do life enrichment activities, and it's kind of helped push us towards the personalized approach and on-demand programming that we wanted in life enrichment. Told that story, shared those outcomes, and now we're scaling this across Front Porch. All this has happened in the span of 9 months. That's the kind of engagement we want. Residents and staff coming together to really learn and tell us what's important, focus us on what needs to be done, participating in the journey, and really creating whole-scale transformation across the organization. So what I can say is, for us, we've learned being very intentional about innovation is incredibly important. Creating the leadership is also incredibly important, but really getting that engagement of your entire workforce and giving them permission to engage in the journey and letting them tell you where to go is the key. It can be messy. We really have a lot of disruption going on in Front Porch. A lot of people have pushed the envelope now and are challenging things that we've long done and asking to do it differently. You've got to be willing to be uncomfortable, but that's a really important part of transformation, especially in organizations that have been in business and kind of have the status quo. So with that, we kind of wanted to turn it back to you. We've shared a little bit about each of our journeys. We have 3 different sized organizations here. We have 3 different approaches. We're all at different stages of the game. But I think the number one thing we've learned and that we've personally experienced is that by sharing with each other, we've been able to figure out how to solve our problems. So we very intentionally this morning asked you, and you were very lively in your conversation, to think about where you're at in your journey and to talk a little bit amongst yourselves about some of the challenges that you're facing. We'd actually like to have a conversation and tap the wealth of thinking in this room. We'll bring our panelists back up here, and we'd like to ask you to maybe if you would help us by sharing some of what you're facing and some of what your innovation questions are and problems are in your journey, and let's talk about it as a group. So who would like to start? Sherry.
I have a question. Thank you all so much for your articles. Very inspiring. My question is around innovation inside the organization and culture change inside the organization, and then innovation outside the organization.
So there's many ways to look at how structure can impact the innovation process. And I think you've got a bunch of good examples here.
And I think
We
we're
have
done.
one more.
Yeah, we have time for one quick question.
Okay, so back to the question, initiatives are carried forward a year from now, 2 years from now. So you just don't have this initial excitement, and then
Right.
90 days later, what was that? You know?
Right.
So how do you do that?
For us, it's training. We have an onboarding process that introduces them to Humanly Possible. We have these 2-hour workshops that we do across the company every year. Everybody does innovation, Humanly Possible projects every year, and so it's embedded in our culture and our annual reoccurring programs. It's part of executive at-risk compensation. You build it into the structure of the organization, and it will take on a life and continue.
Yeah.
You have quarterly reviews with measures for performance or participation.
Yep, we do. I mean, with our cards that we talked about, that is just a visual reminder of what we're trying to move towards and the behaviors we're trying to create, and it's simple enough. And if the jar doesn't have a lot of cards in, we'll bring it to a meeting and be like, does anybody have any cards they want to talk about? And by the end of the year, it should be full. And it's not just ideas, it's actual actions. And there's some evidence that that action will lead to something that improves value for our stakeholders or the organization. And then we can really say, are we doing things that are advancing the mission? Because in not-for-profit, everybody likes to talk about the mission. And they'll be like, well, you never talk about the mission. And I'm like, well, show me it in action. How are we bringing it to life? You're right, I need to talk about that more, but how are we bringing it to life? And then it becomes this accountable approach where it's not just us talking about it, it's us kind of making a dynamic living thing. But again, for us, we're trying to keep it real simple at this point. We're not trying to be, Steve Jobs.